The Houndmaster is a bigger disaster than you might think at first glance. Just today, it was announced that the Houndmaster has been kill switched from the event queues, meaning if you want to play the new character that you just spend your money on in the brand new winter event, you cannot. And they said that they're going to fix this at a later point in time, aka next year, because everyone's on vacation at Behavior. Today, I wanted to dive into the depths of the Houndmaster, from the build up to this chapter, the PTB, the initial release, and to today of it being disabled, and talk about why I think the Houndmaster is a much bigger failure than we're really making it out to be. When a new chapter comes out, one of the biggest things that I enjoy doing is putting together all of the tiny clues and crumbs that Dead by Daylight leaves for us to figure out who the next killer is going to be. Some of those notable times was piecing together when the Oni was coming into Dead by Daylight and speculating amongst the community, who's this killer is going to be, what's the power it's going to be, and there was just so much hype. And then even with something as recent as the Unknown, the build-up was so beautiful. Every day felt like a movie, seeing all these little puzzle pieces come into one big picture and finally getting that beautiful build-up of what the killer is. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that the Houndmaster didn't receive any of this. There was no teasers, there was no build-up, there was nothing at all. And this was sad for multiple reasons. As I mentioned, one of the big things that I even built my career on was speculating what the next chapter is going to be, and we've been deprived of that, especially after coming off of something that was so good. A major part of this is because most of the community managers and other staff over on the Behavior team, as you know, unfortunately did get laid off, including the person that was responsible for making the beautiful Unknown teasers. However, at the very least, with a big chapter coming out, for a company that is still as big as Behavior and still have quite a good reputation, and you can argue that with other people, and some might even say that's debatable, you would think at the bare minimum, even if it was just a 1-second video or a tiny little picture of something, it would just be expected. Instead, we got absolutely nothing. Completely deprived of anything whatsoever, and then the next day, boom, there was a PTB. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about why this is happening, if it was a new marketing tactic, maybe they spent too much time on something like Castlevania and forgot about the Houndmaster, or maybe it was indeed because of the layoffs, but the initial build-up for this chapter was just completely thrown out the window because there was no hype whatsoever. It was kind of a surprise PTB that just dropped onto everybody, and they're like, hey look, new chapter, ta-da! Now, I think part of the reason why a lot of people kind of forgot about this was because the Houndmaster is indeed a fun killer. I can't deny that whatsoever. The power is quite unique. It is super satisfying getting some crazy cool clips with Snug the dog. There's a lot of tiny details in there that do make it feel a lot better, and overall it is quite nice. So I think because of this, a lot of people initially forgot, hey, what really happened to all of the buildup and all of the hype with the chapter itself? Now I can put that aside and not really think about it too much and carry on, but the problems didn't necessarily stop there with the Houndmaster. Now at times I'm going to be a little bit nitpicky on some of the things about this chapter, so before I even jump into all of that, I want to look at some of the goods of this. Like I said, the Houndmaster chapter was super fun. I love the little details where you can actually pet the dog. I love the witty voice lines. And for someone like me who doesn't read the lore whatsoever, I was still quite intrigued, a little bit confused at times with the lore on if the dog was even real or not. But overall, that's just a me problem, and I come to actually enjoy the chapter. And upon release, everyone kind of shared the same sentiment. They really thought the Houndmaster was pretty fun, and it was super duper cool. A unique way to run around with your pal and get some awesome kills. With that being said, in the PTB there was quite a few bugs, and of course that's expected, it's a PTB after all. I've spoken about it in previous videos, but essentially whenever there is a PTB, we're pretty much getting a patch that is 2-3 weeks before their actual submitted patch of what's to go out in the live servers. Anytime Dead by Daylight pushes something out, they need to get it approved by Microsoft and Sony in order to go onto their market. And because it is oftentimes in the PTBs, we're left with something that's a little bit more buggy, and when it comes out, it's much more polished, especially when there's a patch after that that normally has most of the bug fixes that you can expect. However, when this chapter was fully released, and not to mention this wasn't released on a Tuesday, it was released on a Thursday, maybe it was tactical to put it on the US Thanksgiving, Maybe this was a little bit tactical to put it on Thanksgiving, at least for those in the US. It was riddled with bugs. So much bugs that people even compared this to the Twins release, which was a little bit crazy, but still, understandably so, it was a ton of bugs. Needless to say, it was a disaster of bugs, and because it is, the Steam charts really reflected it. With over 500 mostly negative reviews, people were really not happy with it. From people saying it's about time you fix your game instead of pumping out content that contains bugs, to others saying the concept of the killer is good, but the execution is poor and disappointing, to some even saying, dumb killer. Now, this doesn't really scratch the surface of the amount of bugs that was with the Houndmaster chapter. There were tons and tons and tons of them. And again, I gotta give them some credit because there was a quick patch that came out that also buffed up the Houndmaster in many different ways. One of the other grievances that a lot of people have, as we always do, is whether the killer is too weak or too strong. In this instance, people were saying that the Houndmaster really wasn't doing that much, so Dead by Daylight decided to go all in and really buff up the Houndmaster. In addition to buffing her up, they decided to do a round of bug fixes, which made her feel a lot better. Now, even after this bug fix, there were still some things that were going on, still quite a few bugs that really made her a little bit unplayable, and just some small inconveniences such as Snug the dog just looking really weird and the AI just being a little bit wonky. But again, as I said, that's just me nitpicking everything. Now, I do want to give some credit to the devs for putting out this bug fix pretty rapidly and buffing up the killer pretty significantly in little to no time. However, I can still understand the disappointment from people expecting these things not to happen. If I was just a regular consumer not really thinking too much about the dev team, I'm like, oh, new DLC, let me go and buy it, and then it's just riddled with bugs to the point where I can't even play the game, I would be pretty disappointed as well, especially for a company like Behavior after doing this for such a long time. And I would normally cut them some slack and be like, you know what, their last chapters were pretty good and we can expect some good things. This is a one-off thing, but yeah. I'm not really the guy to always talk about negativity or point out the bad things that happen, but I don't also want this to be the norm and just to lower our expectations every single time and just be like, all right, this is how it's going to be and this is just them, so we have to sit there and take it. Just to be fair, obviously, like I said, there was tons of layoffs that happened this year that could have affected things like this. So in some aspects, I will cut them a little bit of slack, but still wanted to call it out. Now, if I'm even being a little bit more nitpicky, we can talk about the visceral skin that we received for the Houndmaster. And this was the first time we've ever seen a power actually being changed, which is super duper cool. The power is being changed and they obviously built the power around being able to change, unlike someone like the Twins. So seeing a visceral skin coming in and a completely new power was pretty damn exciting. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people were quick to point out that only the dog skin was actually changed, and for paying that much money for just the dog skin, you'd expect there to be a little bit more, maybe a new Mori. Unfortunately, that's not the case with it whatsoever. They're paying all this money just to have a different skin for the dog, which, yes, is a power, but if I'm paying almost $20, I kind of want a little bit more, even if it's as simple as a banner or a new profile picture, anything. And again, going back to how buggy the dog can be as well, it's not really that much of an upside. Again, you can just not buy this skin whatsoever and you don't need to worry about it. But again, I'm not really fine with this being the norm. Look, don't get me wrong, it's really nice, but it is overpriced compared to the other viscerals. When I look at someone like Naughty Bear, who pretty much has a whole new set of animations, the narrator speaking in the background at all times, different sounds, voice lines, not to mention that new Mori, or the Were-Elk that has new lobby animations, completely unique voiceover lines and different lullabies, once again that new Mori, True Form, which was for free, new lobby animations, different voices, unique sounds, new Mori. And then you go to the Houndmaster, it just doesn't really cut it for me. And again, it is a beautiful skin, it's just way too overpriced for that. And these kind of mistakes and these kind of things, I think just shouldn't be happening whatsoever. For a game that's been out for this long, they should just know better. And this sounds a little bit crazy, but yeah, we're gonna get a lot of new players and a lot of new people coming into the game very soon when FNAF comes out. And we definitely want to have a very good and very nice impression on them so they can stick around and play the game, and things like this just really don't cut it. Just imagine if this was the FNAF chapter, for example, and this was just riddled with bugs and all these new people coming into the game were getting this terrible impression. It really would not look good. Finally, the cherry on top was today, Dead by Daylight announced that there was yet another bug with the Houndmaster, and that is part of the winter event that we have going on. Essentially, if you go into a snowman, you get a limited amount of haste, so you could just run around super quickly. So now, if you want to play the Houndmaster in the new event, which is kind of the whole thing that's going on until the new year, you can't even do that, which is very disappointing. Again, if you're just the average person picking up the chapter and you're like, all right, new event, let's go try out the killer. I can't do that. I see. Great. Why didn't anyone playtest this character with the new event that they've been working on for such a long time? Yeah, I'm uninstalling. I honestly feel that's how a lot of people are going to feel about this chapter. Now again, this isn't as bad as something like the Skull Merchant, or something as bad as the Knights release, or even as bad as the Twins release. But it's something that I want to talk about and call out a little bit and say, hey, you gotta get things going. You gotta get these chapters better. And this isn't something that the community can just sit down and accept. I don't want this essentially to be the norm. And I have in fact spoken to Behavior about a lot of these things as well. So hopefully in the future with other chapters, we can see things like this being ironed out and this not being the situation. I don't like making negative videos like this. I like giving credit to the devs. I like seeing some cool things and being amazed by what they've come up with and not have to make videos where I'm like, all right, guys, let's clean up the act a little bit. Now, again, I'm not a dev. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, and still credit to the devs for doing what they do. Hopefully the next chapter that comes out is a lot better. I'm kind of giving them a little bit of leeway with this one just because of everything that's happened throughout the year. But hopefully expecting some good things coming out in the next few chapters and patches. Just now, Dead by Daylight have actually put out a satisfaction survey so you guys can make your very own voices heard. Make sure you're taking a look at that satisfaction survey, letting them know how you feel about everything. And if you agree with some of the points that I've made in this video, let it be known, let it be heard. If you disagree, that's fine too. It's all up to your own opinion. Don't let me dictate how you feel about something. I just wanted to point out what I thought was a little bit obvious. On top of that, they also acknowledge that the Houndmaster is bugged and they're going to be working on a fix. But as I said, everyone's kind of they're out of office for the holidays. So more than likely, we won't be seeing any changes coming soon. So stay tuned for that. But that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure you leave a like down below and subscribe for some more awesome Dead by Daylight content. I'm having a huge bit-a-thon that's currently going on Twitch. I'm still live right now. We're giving away DLC codes for the Houndmaster. And this Christmas, we're giving away so many things. We're talking about gift cards, secret behavior items, DLCs, Oryx cells. Come on over to my twitch.tv/theking. And on New Year's Eve, we're going to do that all over again. So make sure you guys are coming out. If you want a chance to win some awesome prizes, follow up on Twitch to stay tuned with everything. That's pretty much going to do it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. As always, I'm the King. I tip my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fog.